This is the Etsy Conversations podcast, and I'm your host, Ijama. I thank you for joining me for another episode. And this week, I'm going back to the archives and pulling out another episode that I think was very helpful in the past. And if you're subscribed in iTunes, I know it doesn't show up anymore. And so I want you to hear this episode. And my guest in this episode was Dan Safkow. And we had this conversation back in June of 2014. That was when it originally aired. And Dan has since done so much and his business has grown so much. And I would really like for you to check out what he's doing. His Etsy shop is iMakeTheCase. And when we had our conversation, we talked about Dan's transition from corporate marketing to becoming a full-time e-commerce e-commerce business owner, I should say. In his Etsy shop, iMakeTheCase, he sells laser engraved iPhone cases, and not just iPhones now, but now more smartphones. And because he has a marketing background, we talked a lot about marketing and how Etsy sellers can use traditional marketing techniques to help grow their Etsy businesses. In the past, Dan worked for agencies that served companies like HBO and Disney and Panasonic. So he just brought a lot of value and a lot of good information to the conversation. And so I really hope that you get a lot out of this. I think it's still applicable today. Over the last year, Dan used to host a weekly Facebook Live hangout, and those have since stopped, but you might be able to watch them in the archives. I don't quite know how to get to them, but I can get more information from Dan if this is something you're interested in, which I think it would be. And he used to have a panel of people, including Melissa Kaiserman, and they would just talk about all just Etsy stuff and basically running an e-commerce store. It was really very helpful. And so I hope you find that helpful. I hope you find this episode helpful. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and I have today my guest, Dan, who runs the Etsy shop iMakeTheCase. Dan opened his shop on January 22nd, 2013, and to date he has 972 sales with 198 5-star ratings. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Ijama.
How are you?
Terrific. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I've been a long-time listener, and I'm excited to be on the program.
Thank you so much. So let's just jump into it. So you've opened, your shop has been open for about a year and a half now, but when did you first discover Etsy?
I first discovered Etsy about a year and a half ago. It was something that my assistant kept talking about. And, I had this idea that it was just a crafts place for primarily women. And she made me go to it and convinced me that it would be a good fit for my products. And I'm so glad I did, because my assumption was completely false. It's so much more than that.
Yes, and it's not just for women, and I'm glad that you're on the show because I don't have that many men on, and you have a very unique product, so I'm really thrilled to have you on. Can you tell us what you sell?
I sell one-of-a-kind bamboo phone cases. There's a lot of phone cases out there, plastic and metal and different materials, but I so love working with bamboo, and I love also working with technology, so I call it the yin and the yang, because here's this high-tech, very metal object packed in this delicate bamboo shell. So I love the mix of the two.
Nice. And so you make phone cases for the iPhone and any other types of phones?
Right now, just the iPhones and a couple of Galaxy models.
Okay. All right. And when did you... Oh, no, that wasn't what I was going to ask. Do you make custom designs, or do you pick the designs and then people just get to choose what they want out of the array that you offer?
I do both. I create my own designs just based on my own likes, like any artist would. But I also love doing the custom designs. I love collaborating with other artists. A lot of my customers are other Etsy sellers or people that just find me through Google searches and whatnot. And they'll begin the conversation with, hey, can you do this?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's a one of a kind, it's just for them. But sometimes they want to combine different elements of my other designs. So what comes of that collaboration, then I offer for sale in my shop. And some of those have turned out to be my best sellers. So I really enjoy the collaboration experience, especially if then I can offer that design to other people.
Oh, nice. So do you sell on Etsy full time, or do you have a job outside of Etsy?
I sell on e-commerce full time. So Etsy is my favorite platform, but I also sell my phone cases on Amazon and eBay and a few other online platforms. And I'm currently developing my own website.
Oh, nice. Now you have a very interesting background. Before you started in the e-commerce world, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I spent 20 years doing marketing and promotions for Fortune 500 companies, a lot of consumer electronic and entertainment companies, including Disney and Canon and Motorola and Panasonic and HBO. And I became self-employed about 9 years ago. I should say I chose to become self-employed. I've always been an entrepreneur, and that skill set served me well inside of marketing agencies, which are usually a very entrepreneurial company. But I always wanted to have my own company, and finally I made the leap.
Nice. So would you say that your experience in promotions and marketing has helped with your e-commerce venture?
Yeah, a little bit. On the operations side, I have a knack for getting things done pretty quickly and finding the right vendors and collaborating and things like that. But honestly, that most of that marketing experience was offline. So it helps me in operations, but it doesn't help me where marketing is today in terms of online and e-commerce. But fortunately, I've gone to school kind of on my own in the last couple of years. I attended a lot of internet marketing conferences, eventually becoming an internet marketing trainer. I taught video marketing for a couple of years. In fact, if you Google me and video marketing, you'll find a lot of training videos that I created. And just through that experience, I learned a lot about SEO and landing pages and different things that serve me now on Etsy, the other platforms, and my own website.
Oh, excellent. And the videos that you were creating, were they for a specific audience?
They were for entrepreneurs who wanted to learn how to leverage YouTube for their own business. So I was actually assisting a internet marketer. I helped him put videos online and producing his videos, and eventually he said, you need to step in front of the camera and teach other people exactly what you're doing for me and help them with their own marketing. So I made that leap, and I became a trainer and offered some products online and taught at seminars all over the world before I started my e-commerce business.
Wow, that's excellent. So now that you're doing e-commerce full time, how do you manage your time, especially since you're on multiple venues?
Well, that's a good question. The fun part is the creation, and that work shows up on the cases. If you look at my Etsy store, you'll see my designs, and I tend to do that first. I like any entrepreneur, you want to do the things you enjoy the most
Yes.
first, and then the things you enjoy the least. For me, like accounting and stuff like that, I always push off. So, but I'm becoming better about having more structure to my day. The listings need to come first because those are the money makers, and then I have to back into the listings by creating new products. So I dedicate certain hours to designs, and then I hand off the designs to my assistant. She does most of the photography and listings for me, and so I can focus on the creative stuff, the marketing stuff, and developing the wholesale side of the business.
Okay. Now, was it hard getting an assistant? Because with selling online, it's very specific. Like, you want your descriptions a certain way, you want your photographs a certain way. Did you have to do a lot of training when you got an assistant to help you?
I got very lucky. I found somebody via TaskRabbit, which is available in a lot of cities. Basically, you hire assistants by the project, and I hired her for a fulfillment project. She was just unpacking Kindles that I was preloading in my previous business. I was preloading Kindles for a client, I think in Sweden or Switzerland, and she was helping me unpack those, load and repack those. And then she just kept. I kept bringing her back for different projects, and she helped me with the video marketing business that I had as well. And then when we started doing e-commerce, we really learned that together. But it just became a real nice partnership because I love doing the creative and the marketing, and she loves doing the photography and the listing. So we had a very clear division of responsibilities, and she's been with me over a year now. So I didn't have to go through a process of finding and training. I found the person in house. She was already helping me, and she just had a knack for the skill set that I needed her for. Her name is Ellen, and I just feel really blessed to have her, and it saves me so much time and mental resources just to hand off the stuff that I don't particularly like doing.
Right, and that makes perfect sense, especially if you're a solo business owner. You do need to outsource some of your tasks. And I know you said you like the marketing side, and I know you've referred to yourself as a creative marketer as opposed to an artist, right?
Yeah, I envy artists. I secretly want to be an artist, and I've got Photoshop skills and things like that. So I could consider myself a graphic designer, but I couldn't do sculpture or painting or anything like that. And I'm more commercial because of my background, because of my marketing background and my goals. It's not a hobby for me. It is a full-time business. So unlike maybe some Etsy sellers or some artists, I always have an eye on what will sell. So some of my time is devoted to just being creative and being fun. But I'm also very aware of what's going on in pulp culture and developing products that people are searching for. So linking Google search engine to my Etsy store, my other stores, and finding that shortest path between what the consumer wants and what I can offer them. So not all of my creations necessarily appeal to me, but I'm just trying to fill a need that people are searching for.
Oh, that's excellent. That's very smart. What would you say is a good balance to have between creativity and marketing?
Well, one of the lessons I learned is from the actor Nicolas Cage. I saw him interviewed one time, and they said, "How do you pick your movies?" And he said, "Well, I'll do one for the art and one for the money." So he might do an indie film, and then the next one, he gets $10 million for, and he doesn't necessarily care what it is. He's there for the big paycheck. And maybe I pattern my business after him. I'm looking right now as you're interviewing me. I'm looking at a wall with all my designs, and some of them I just did for fun, and they turned out to be commercial successes, and some of them are duds, and then half of them I did specifically for the commercial appeal. For instance, one day I was reading Yahoo News, and there was a mention that Beyonce and Jay-Z were flashing the Illuminati sign from the stage, and I only had a vague knowledge of what the Illuminati sign was. It's if you hold up your hands in the form of a triangle, and it's that same triangle that appears on our dollar bills. And so I started doing more research. I thought, well, if Jay-Z and Beyonce, America's royalty, are flashing the Illuminati sign. I need an iPhone case with an Illuminati sign.
Yes.
So I quickly designed one, and it's been one of my best sellers.
Wow.
So when I say that, I kind of keep a half an eye on pop culture. I read the news. I see what people are wearing on their T-shirts and ball caps and things like that, and then I'll develop my own unique design around what I'm seeing in the marketplace. So at least 50 of my designs, I just, maybe, so I put those out to appeal to what people are searching for.
Nice. So keep your eye on what's going on around you.
Yeah, there's two types of ways to approach that. Okay, what's trending, and the Illuminati sign, what would be a good example of that. But also, what are legacy images? Like I've got a lotus case, a couple of lotus cases, the lotus flower that's associated with meditation and yoga and Zen, and that's what I would call a legacy design. It was the lotus flower, symbology was popular long before I started making iPhone cases, and will be long after I finish making iPhone cases. So I look for stuff like that people that already have a passion for, that reflects what their interests are, whether it be meditation or yoga or travel or their Irish heritage or their passion for their religion, whether it be Christianity or Hinduism. So I'm also always looking for things that appeal to what people already have a strong passion for.
Right. That's smart marketing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And, because all of us want to, we want to be true to our art for the true artist, but also there's the opportunity to earn more. And if we can earn more, we can do more with our families or support our charities to a greater degree, or travel more. So, there's no reason to be a starving artist nowadays. So let's put out stuff that people will buy, so we can enjoy life more.
Good. So is your shop profitable yet?
Yeah, it's profitable because I know my cost on each item. It's pretty easy to measure, and I've been profitable since I've opened. And I don't carry a lot of inventory. My inventory turns over pretty quickly. So I know that's a struggle for some artists because they're always in the creation mode, and sales may be slow. So they end up upside down on inventory. And I don't know what the solution is for them, but I've been able to avoid it with my particular business model. But I know that's a struggle for some sellers.
Now, you said you know your costs. Can you explain what you mean by knowing your costs?
Well, I know how much time goes into each case. In my particular scenario, I only have to design it once, and then I'm able to replicate that over different cases through my engraving process. So my design is a sunk cost, and then I know my cost for the cases and for my time to engrave future cases.
Okay.
Whereas another artist all of their designs may be one of a kind. So this bracelet may be a time investment of 30 minutes, but this bracelet took 4 hours to create. So I don't have that wide a gap in my product. So it's pretty easy to measure.
Okay, that makes sense. And so you've already kind of told us what inspires you as far as designs go. What motivates you to keep your business going?
Oh, kind of what I already mentioned. The value of having a profit mindset. I want to travel. I want to be able to provide my 14-year-old son, who will be of college age in just a couple of years, with any education that he wants after high school. Yes. So I have no shame about being commercial wanting to build a large business. And I also like being able to employ people. I'm a Big Brother volunteer, and I've got a developmentally disabled little brother who's I met when he was 10. He's 30 now, and I'm able to employ him a couple of days a week. My son helps me as a paid employee a couple of times. So I love being an employer too, and help people, work towards their own dreams. Like I said, there's I don't know if there's any honor in being a starving artist, but if you can be more commercial and achieve a higher degree of success, you can influence and help more people
Yes.
in your own circle.
I completely agree, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I know that some people are on Etsy as a hobby and a way to just sell their creative goods because family and friends don't want them anymore. But for the people who are on Etsy and running their shops as a business, I think what you've said is very valuable because it's a business, and a business is there to make a profit, but then also have larger goals. And I like that you have bigger goals other than just making a profit, but personal goals and then helping other people around. And I think it kind of helps to direct what you're doing when you know the why behind.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a lot of us have money issues, depending on how we were raised, and we're just still a couple of generations removed from the Depression, and there was a lot of scarcity and stuff. So we're often dealing with our own parents' issues and their parents' issues about money, and we feel bad about it on a conscious or subconscious basis, and we have to break through that. And once we do, then we'll be able to help more people and increase our circle of influence.
Yeah. So, do you spend any time looking at other Etsy shops that sell items similar to what you sell?
No, I don't at all. I used to in the beginning, but it just made me crazy looking at my competition's pricing. I would see people undercutting me or having prices that were a lot lower than me, and I gotta reduce my prices. And then I would see similar cases that were a lot more expensive. I need to raise my prices, and so I stopped looking because it was just too much information. I know my own margins, and I set my price somewhere in the middle. And also, I didn't want to be influenced by their designs. A little bit unfair to steal a competitor's designs, but I do love looking at Etsy in general, just to see what's trending, and let those designs influence me. And I might see I think I saw a pillow once that says "I heart my crazy husband," and I thought that's clever, and so I created my own variation of the artwork, and it's on a phone case, and I added some "I love my crazy boyfriend," "I love my crazy girlfriend," etc. And that's been a big seller. So I will let just Etsy in general influence me for design ideas, because it's part of the world that we live in, and those designs are influenced by other designs in culture. There's very few original ideas or designs. Everything is a variation of something else that exists. But Etsy is just one of the places I'll go to. I also have some apps on my phone. One in particular is called Flipboard, and Flipboard has a design section, and it's more about architecture and contemporary design, but I get a lot of ideas from that as well. So really, the influences are everywhere. You just have to keep your eyes wide open.
Okay, I saw your line of I love my crazy husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. I thought those were cute.
Yeah, they are fun. And I've seen them a lot of different places. I mentioned the pillow on Etsy, but I've been to craft fairs, and I've seen a lot of different variations of it. So it's one of those things that I think has gone kind of viral in the craft community, and we all we all borrow from each other
Yeah.
a little bit, and as long as your design is unique, I think it's okay to be influenced that way.
Yes. And you can have a pillow that says it as well as a phone case that says it.
Yeah, and even within the Etsy marketplace, a lot of people offer their designs as downloads. So if you do have a product that's printed or engraved or something like that, you can go on to Etsy and enter downloads for commercial use. And you'll find a lot of sellers that are offering their designs that, for instance, if maybe they put it on a pillow and they'll say, uh, you're prohibited from making other pillows, but if you want to make a phone case or a wall decor or something like that with the same design, you're welcome to. So that's a way for an existing Etsy seller or a new Etsy seller uh, who who prints or decorates their stuff in a that is. Hmm, I guess I'm trying to describe the process, and I'm not coming up with with the word. But if it's kind of stamped onto
Right.
the object, you can find artwork there and put it on your own objects.
Oh, that's good to know because I didn't know that. I knew that some sellers sold downloadable products like patterns or photographs, things like that. But I didn't know you could actually buy like designs that you could repurpose for commercial
Yeah, the
use.
distinction is commercial. They usually
Yes.
say it right in their description that this is for
Oh,
commercial use or this is for personal use. And personal use
okay.
means you can make it for your own self,
Right.
but you cannot
But you can't
come
sell
back and
them.
sell it.
Okay. Okay. Have you had any bad experiences on Etsy and how do you deal with disputes or negative feedback? Well, it doesn't look like you have any negative feedback actually.
No, I haven't. I've been able to head some off because I put my cell phone number on every receipt. So that they get my cell phone number first when they order. It automatically generates a note, thank you for your order, and here's my phone number. And then when I send them the product, I put my cell phone number right on the receipt, and I say this is my cell phone number. If you have any questions or comments about what you're receiving, please give me a call. And occasionally I do screw up. I'll send the wrong product,
Oh,
or there's been a defective product or two, and people are so good about calling me, and I've turned what almost was a negative review, if we hadn't communicated, into a positive review because I replaced the phone case in a couple of days, and then they'll come back and maybe even mention that in their review that he took care of me, and I think a lot of people miss the opportunity. They I see discussions sometimes about other e-commerce sellers, and they get Google phone numbers, so it goes directly to voicemail because they fear that contact from a dissatisfied customer.
right.
But I welcome it. I want that opportunity to solve the problem right away and turn that potential negative review or return into a positive one. So. To answer your question, though, I've had nothing but great experiences on Etsy. I mentioned that I sell on eBay and Amazon as
Hmm.
well, and buyers there can be a little harsher, but on Etsy, um, the only problems I've encountered there are ones that I've created myself by mixing orders or something like that.
Yeah. So even on the other platforms, you do the same thing. Phone number, open line of communication, same as you do on Etsy.
Yeah,
Okay.
always. And I only get my phone rings maybe once a week. And I think people are afraid to do that, especially if it's their cell phone number. They think they'll be getting calls all hours. But if you put out a good product, you don't have to worry about that. It will take care of itself, and
Yeah.
you won't get a lot of random calls. And my cell phone number's been out on the internet for years with my other businesses,
Hmm.
and nothing bad has has happened. So it's not something that worries me,
Yeah.
and I use it as an advantage. not a minus.
See, that was my next question, because you said some people will get a Google phone number just so it goes to a voicemail and they don't pick up. And I was going to ask if you have any concerns about putting your real number out there. I mean, it only goes to people who actually purchase from you, so there's a relationship there. But it doesn't sound like you've had any issues.
No, again, if you're putting out good stuff, if your products are quality, it's not something to worry about. And
Okay.
I even say on my note on the receipt, this is my personal cell phone number. Feel free to give me a call. And even if they don't call, I hope that they look at that and say, wow, he really stands. He just gave me his cell phone number. To some people, cell phone numbers are sacred. So
Yeah.
they know I'm serious about providing good customer service.
Yes. Yeah. And I know I personally always feel more comfortable if I know that if I need to reach you, I can. Not that I would if I didn't need to. If I don't need to call you, I'm not going to call you. But just knowing that I can, it, gives a sense of relief, as opposed to sometimes, you do business with some companies and there's no way you can get through to them. I mean, they'll have like a contact form, not even an email where you might even think somebody's responding is looking at the emails, and those kind of set you on edge. And I don't know. Yeah.
And it's a learning opportunity too. On the occasions that I do get calls, I'm able to talk to people and ask them, especially if it's an obscure design, why did you pick that one? Or I learn that they're gifting it. So I'm able to get a little bit of demographic or psychographic information and understand my buyers, which is really hard to do on any e-commerce platform. It's easy to do when you do events and you're able to see what people pick up and touch and what they look at and ask questions for. But when it's just through the computer, it's a little more challenging to get to know who your customer is. So if you do get phone calls from them, you can engage them for a little bit and learn more about their motivations for purchasing your product.
Yeah. Now, how do you promote your Etsy shop?
Well, I do a little bit of advertising. Etsy has a great advertising tool that I bought into. I forget what it's called, but it has something to do with search. They're putting ads out on your behalf on Google and maybe other platforms, and I use that. And they've got an analytic within that shows what your return on investment is, and that means how much you put out versus how many sales that you made. And my return on investment, I was at the $7 level, and I was looking at it just the other day, and I realized that I had spent over the last year a couple of $100, but my return on investment was over $1,000.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, well, and then I saw another option that I could raise it up to 35. So assuming those numbers continue, for if I'm getting 4 times my investment, that why not raise it from $7 a week, or I'm not sure if I think it's $7 a week, to 35, and see if that pattern continues. And that's all I do within Etsy. The things that are on my list to do is I want to get active on Instagram and Pinterest, the more visual social media platforms, because I think what we do on Etsy very much lends itself to that. I haven't started yet. I'm not terribly good with social media. I do have a Facebook page, but I don't engage there as often as I do. And then offline marketing. I'm trying to do more events this summer. They're not always particularly profitable, but I do make contacts that may become wholesale customers or may be collaborators in design or something like that. And also I value getting the immediate feedback from customers, and that helps me with future design. So sometimes that's a wash or even a loss leader, but I think in the overall scheme, if you have the time, that doing an event once a month or at least once every 2 months, if there are craft events in your area, are very valuable.
Yeah, I agree. Do you plan to learn Pinterest and Instagram yourself, or do you think that's something you might outsource? Is it up your alley? Is it something you might like to do?
Well, both. I would like to outsource it, but I would also like to understand it myself. I think
Okay.
if you do rely on people, on vendors and outsourced service providers, if you don't understand it yourself, it's hard for you to give them direction, or it's hard for you to value what they're doing
Yeah.
at the end of the week or at the end of the month. So I want to learn it myself. And just this weekend, I am moving my office. I'm right now in the Artist Village in Santa Ana, California, and I'm moving to a co-working space in Costa Mesa, California, called Creative Outlet Studios. And I'm going to hopefully collaborate with them in bringing speakers and seminars to the facility. And if I'm booking the speakers, then I can pick whatever expertise I want. So,
Yes.
so it's like benevolently selfish booking. So I'll go out and find somebody who's an expert on Pinterest
Pinterest.
and Instagram and book them, and then I get to learn at the same time and provide value to other Etsy sellers and e-commerce entrepreneurs who need to learn these things too.
Oh, good. What about a website or blog? Do you do any of that?
I'm developing my own website, iMakeTheCase.com, on the Store Envy platform, or actually I'm between BigCommerce and Store Envy. I haven't settled on one yet, but hopefully by the time this broadcast occurs, that site will be live.
So tell us, BigCommerce and Store Envy, those are shopping cart platforms, right?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
They are e-commerce platforms that provide the shopping cart capabilities.
Okay.
I think Store Envy is a little bit different in that they also have a community or collective of sellers, and they will promote that collective as well. Whereas BigCommerce is kind of standalone. You get a website from them.
Okay. Do they incorporate the capability to blog or put other content other than just selling your products?
Yeah, they do. They have built-in modules for that purpose, and both platforms also have apps that are developed by third parties, and typically an app provides one specific function. For instance, the app I'm looking at or used recently on Store Envy allowed me to export all of my products from Etsy, and so in just a few minutes I am able to populate several hundred products on Store Envy with my existing pictures and descriptions on Etsy.
Oh, nice. That's very handy.
Oh, it saves so much time.
Yeah. Oh, good. And then if someone lands on your website and then they click on a product, it will redirect them to purchase it through Etsy.
No, it's standalone. You're just moving the data from Etsy to the other platform. It kind of does, when as I describe it, doesn't sound quite fair to Etsy to do that, but
I know.
You can also export data from eBay and other platforms. So I guess it's just the way it is on these platforms. That wasn't the original intention, but that's an opportunity that entrepreneurs can take advantage of. Maybe the original intention is you can export. When you export the data, you end up with a spreadsheet, and maybe you can manipulate the data there and re-upload it to Etsy, and it would save you a lot of time. But once you have the data, you can put it anywhere.
Okay, nice. Okay, so we'll keep our eye out for that. Now, about how much time per week are you spending on your Etsy shop?
It's about a third of my time. So if you assume I work 50 or 60 hours, that would put me at 17 to 20 hours.
Oh, wow. And that's for everything Etsy related?
That's for everything Etsy related, but a lot of the things that me and my assistant do also cover the. So if I'm taking photos, I can use those on multiple platforms, not just Etsy. So it's some things are Etsy specific, and some things are shared across all of
Okay.
my e-commerce platforms.
Okay. So then I have a question. So, oh, well, I said I have a question. I have all questions for you. um, because you're on multiple platforms, would you say, was Etsy the first one you came to or not?
No, I was selling on eBay
Okay,
before
good, because
Etsy.
then that makes my question relevant. I was like, well, if it wasn't, then my question is irrelevant. So when you came onto Etsy, did it have the impact that you expected? Did you just come on as a trial, or did you come on knowing what you were getting into?
No, it was such a pleasant surprise because I wasn't that familiar with the platform. I'd been on eBay as a buyer for years, so I knew what to expect there. But Etsy was new to me, and it is probably one third of my sales right now. People on Etsy, people shopping Etsy appreciate my products. So I imagine I don't think Etsy gets as much traffic as eBay or Amazon, but it
Mm-hmm.
accounts for as many sales as I get on those other platforms. But also just the experience. I so much enjoy um, the the collaboration opportunities,
Yeah.
buying and selling from other creatives and artists. And when I do go to events, everyone else is an Etsy seller. So there's that unique feeling of community that just doesn't exist
Yeah.
on other platforms.
Yeah. Do you belong to any Etsy teams?
No, and
Okay.
that's something that I haven't really gotten my head around. I don't understand the necessarily the process and the advantages. So maybe if somebody's out there listening to this, they can invite me to their Etsy team, and if they take a little bit of time and explain it to me, I promise them that I'll be a productive and contributing member.
Very good. So the word is out. Reach out
Yeah,
to Dan. He wants to join a team, but he needs to know everything.
yeah. I need somebody to take me by the hand and tell me what this team thing is all about.
Oh, good. Well, I hope somebody will. Have you ever, now you've been, it's a year and a half now, and I'm guessing I already know the answer to this question, but has there been any point in time you've thought of closing down the Etsy operation and moving on to something else?
No, in fact, I need to expand the Etsy operation. I'm going to open up a second Etsy store soon.
Really?
I've got some craft supply products that would be a good fit there. A lot of my designs I can turn into downloadables. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. I've
Yeah.
got a lot of one-of-a-kind designs that I would be more than happy to offer up to other Etsy artists that don't sell phone cases. So I want to be able to sell those too. And I've got some other products that I'm thinking about. So I want to grow it bigger.
Oh, excellent. So one of your big um, your major strengths is marketing. Why do you think it's so important for Etsy sellers to focus?
Because every Etsy seller has a gift for creativity, for artistry, and you need to share that gift with more people. And if only a few people are seeing your stuff, then you're limiting your sphere of influence with your gift. So I want every Etsy artist to be better marketers, so people who are looking for what they have can find them easier, better, and faster.
What do you think is the best marketing strategy for Etsy sellers?
Oh, wow. I would say social media
Okay.
because it's all about sharing and liking. But within social media, I would say YouTube because YouTube is visual. YouTube is a storytelling platform,
Yeah.
and also YouTube videos stay on the internet forever. If you
Yes.
post something to Twitter or Facebook, it's gone in a day, even if
Mm-hmm.
people share and like it. But if you post a video telling your inspiration for this bracelet or this piece of art that you created, and if you keyword that properly, if you say this is a pod of dolphins, well, somebody years from now may enter pot of dolphins wall decor into Google, and your video that you created 3 years ago telling your story of how you came up with that beautiful painting appears. So that's what in marketing we call that evergreen. So Facebook, Twitter, other social media platforms, not evergreen. It's here today, gone tomorrow.
Yes.
But a video on YouTube will has no limit, and Google loves to seed video in the top 5 search results for almost every search. If you go onto Google, whatever you search for, you'll always see that 1 or 2 video in the top 10. So you can leapfrog people that have done search engine optimization, but maybe just in a blog form or an article form. Google loves to put videos near the top. So even though you don't know much about SEO, if you're able to do a video, make the title and description keyword rich, then you may beat other people who have pot of dolphin paintings, but have just described it in an article or just put a picture on a blog.
Yeah, I say it so much. I think videos and Etsy sellers go together so well. I think, that's the way to go.
Yeah, how do we ask Etsy to open up the HTML a little bit so we can post videos on our product descriptions that tell the story of that product that we created?
Well, I think you just did. And that was going to be my next question was, what feature would you like to see Etsy implement? I don't know if anybody from Etsy listens to this podcast. If they do, they've never told me. But in case they do, tell us what feature that would be. What would that look like to you?
Well, in other product or e-commerce platforms, you always have a little button that says HTML. And if you're able to activate that button, it gives you access to the coding, usually just on a limited basis. But if you had access to that coding, all you have to do is go over to YouTube and click the button there under your video to get the HTML code. And by HTML code, it's just you cut and paste 2 lines of code that have what's called HTML in it. You bring that over to Etsy, you paste it, and boom, your video where you just shared your great story of how you were inspired to create this artwork. And people connect with stories. So it's not just about being able to copy and paste the video into the platform, but we also need to teach people how to share their stories, how to get comfortable with video. So that could be a whole subsection within Etsy in teaching people how to tell their story via video, or a third party, whether it be me or someone else, could teach people how to make compelling Etsy videos. And actually we can do that now. We just can't put them on Etsy. We can still tell our stories on YouTube and Facebook and whatnot. But that's how people connect.
And the podcast.
And Google Hangouts and things like that. iTunes. These are all opportunities. But people generally have a fear of video and a fear of technology. So A, we need to help them get over that. And then B, we need to help teach them how to tell their story in 2 minutes or less, because people aren't going to watch long videos. But that's at the core of our humanity. We bond and we form friendships and we form trust through our stories. And we need to be able to tell more stories, and video is a great way to do that.
I completely agree with you. I say this quite often on the podcast. People like to do business with people that they know, or they think, they feel that they know or have some connection with. And the only way to get that connection is to tell people about yourself, let them learn about you and feel like they know you. And at the very least, do your about page. Because when people go to your Etsy shop, I always go to the about page, because I like to know who this is before I even start looking at what they're selling. I just want to know who the artist is. And then I start looking at what their, what the products are. Even if I've done a search for something and it gives me results and I click on something I like, if they have an about page, I go there first and then I go back to the product page to, look at what I was looking for. I just like to know.
And what if that about could be a video? Just people share where they've come from, where they are now, what their inspirations are. It's the most intimate form of communication because you can see people's eyes, you can see their body language, you can even see their hands. You can studies have shown if you can see people's hands, so it's okay to talk with your hands if you're somebody who does, because if people can see your hands, they're more likely to trust you on a subconscious level.
Yes, very good. Thank you. I think that was a great last piece of information, because I'm all about the videos and I wish more Etsy sellers would get on it, and hopefully Etsy will allow that functionality in on the platform soon.
Yeah.
Now,
Agreed.
what are the best ways people can reach you if they want to reach out to you?
Oh, through my Etsy store, iMakeTheCase. If anybody's interested in my products after hearing this, and you see something you like or you want to collaborate on. Otherwise, Dan Safkow, Safkow is my last name. You can Google me, and you can probably find my cell phone number, as I mentioned. And you just want to call me and talk to me about your art or how we might work together. That's fine too. And my website, iMakeTheCase.com. By the time you find this podcast, I promise that site will be active.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. If you're listening to this podcast and you have an iPhone or is it Samsung?
Yes,
Galaxy
4 or 5.
Galaxy 4 or 5. Please check out iMakeTheCase. That's Dan's Etsy shop. He has many designs, over 500 items in his shop you can choose from. Dan, thank you so much for being my guest on the podcast. I've had a really good time. I think you offered some very valuable information.
Thanks, Ijama. It was fun, and I so appreciate what you do by hosting this podcast. We can all learn something from each other.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.